I want to talk about your restaurants for a minute, and because I'm gonna get into, it's gonna pivot into your Instagram. But
No
so
worries.
I lived in New York from like 2000 to 2013, 14. Okay.
Wow, long time.
Yeah, and I was like I was very into the restaurant scene that was happening at the time. It was always very exciting, like I think it started with like I'd say Batali started doing Babbo, which kind of, started a little revolution. And then there was like Wiley Dufresne had 71 Clinton Fresh
Yeah.
Foods. And all these like really interesting restaurants were popping up, like the Spotted Pig. And then like my buddies and I would just go from place to place to place, and we'd get this like rush and this like we were like drug addicts going from these like avant-garde cool restaurants to avant-garde cool restaurants. And in between, we'd always hit up one of your places.
Thank
And
you.
your places were so interesting to me because they were kind of under the radar in a way. You weren't like this bombastic
Purposely under the radar.
Yeah,
Purposely.
you weren't this like bombastic celebrity chef who was like going out and doing TV and this and that. And your food was like, it was so simple, but we would leave and have that same exact feeling that we'd get from all these avant-garde wacky restaurants. And it was confusing to me almost. I was like, why the fuck do I like supper so much? Because I think I was like a fledgling foodie and I didn't really get food. And I think the key to your food is this. It's simple, but not easy. There's
Exactly.
a huge difference between simple and easy, right? And now that I see the way that you cook and I see you creating the dishes, it makes so much sense. Because when you're only cooking, Italian food is so fucking simple. There's like 3 or 4 ingredients in the dish. And if you don't get the best ingredients, and if you don't treat them with the utmost respect, it fucks up the whole.
Execution, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's, your style of cooking is my favorite style of cooking because you can whip something up. If you know what you're doing, you can whip something up every night. Whereas like, look, I'm Middle Eastern. I love Mediterranean food. But if I'm cooking something from like Ottolenghi's Jerusalem cookbook, I need a fucking pantry the size of my house to make a salad.
Yeah. I mean, I go against those things, man. I mean, that's all. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's what we call muddled flavors. And unless you're orchestrating a symphony of spices to create what you consider a unique flavor, which is really what happens in a lot of these spice mixes and, Middle Eastern food, that's different. You know what I'm saying? That's curated and that's historic sometimes. Like, curries. I mean, curry's a perfect example. I mean, I respect curries.
Yeah.
What I don't respect is just throwing 20 things into something and expecting it to be good. It just doesn't work that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when I was in New York, I interned at the Spotted Pig for 3 summers in the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah. And I learned something while cooking there, which is that 95% of recipes are complete bullshit filler.
Totally bullshit. Chefs don't use recipes. I'm 45 years working in the business. I started when I was literally 43 years working inside a restaurant. I started when I was 12 years old as a dishwasher. I've never been handed a recipe ever by a chef in a restaurant. I've never seen anyone use one in a restaurant. We don't use them. We teach each other how to make it. We check up on each other. It's all about the technique always, okay? And we leave it up to the individual person on the line to decide how much to put. I mean, that is where their creativity comes in. And it's very, very subtle differences, between, all of my line cooks. But they're all masterful at what they do, and it represents them. And that's one of the reasons why my guys have been with me, for 23 years. Because they can express themselves within the constraints of my menus.
Yeah.
Talking about chicken a la king, mango and garbanzo tabbouleh, grilled potatoes and vegetables with roasted garlic and basil, zucchini ziti, granola fruit bar. Look at all this beautiful food.